Hello everyone, this is Sam from HiPy. Today we're going to be learning about my favourite library in Python. It's the Seaborn library. It's a great library for visualization, for statistics. It offers some really clean and cool graphs for us to use. It's built off matplotlib, so it's got a lot of the matplotlib functionality inbuilt as well. So let's go ahead and just import all of our libraries. I've just saved some time here by saving them to my clipboard, so if we just paste, we'll see we're importing all the standard with numpy as np, pandas as pd, matplotlib.pyplot as plt, and also Seaborn as SNS. So that's going to be the alias we're using. We're also using the matplotlib inline option to make it so that we don't have to type in plt.show whenever we want to show a plot. And then we're also going to have some data to set up. We're going to call it attn, and we're going to load in the data set from the Seaborn library. We have Titanic. So this is the Titanic dataset, and if we say print attn.head, we'll see we have a load of different columns here, including the sex, age, fair, the class, if they're a male or female, again, the town that they embarked from, loads and loads of different data, including whether they survived or not, which is quite a grim statistic. So we're going to be working through some different functions that come with Seaborn to see just how they operate and the syntax and what's going on. The first one we're going to be looking at is the SNSjointplot function. This is just a counting bar plot, and the syntax that this uses is we specify what columns that we want in a string format, and then also what data set we are taking them from. So here we have the attn data set, and the column we want is the sex. So if we press shift enter here, we get a nice little bar plot of what's going on between the male and the female sets. We can also split this by gender, or we can split this by any other kind of categorical variable in our data set. So here we have the class data, and we're taking it from the attn, so data equals attn, and then we can split it using the hue keyword by sex. So here we have different classes, but we split it down into sexes. So we have, we can see, although we knew from this that a lot more men than females are on the ship, but we can also see that a lot more men are in third class than women, and kind of as we move up the classes, that kind of differential between the two closes up. We can also, if we have more than one, well, if we have kind of like a continuous and a categorical data that we want to kind of show the relationship between the two, we have a lot of options. We have violin, swarm, but the one we're going to be looking at for now is the Boxplot, which is probably the simplest. We have sns.boxplot. We have to specify the x, which is class, the y, which is age, the data, which is attn, and then we're going to split it straight away by the gender or sex again. So we have sex, and then we can see here there's a nice little kind of like a decreasing gradient here. We can see that in general people in first class are older, people in second class and third class are younger. Also women tend to be younger than men in their respective classes, so that's a nice little piece of insight that we can get out of it. If we want to also have two pieces of continuous data that we're going to be looking at the relationship between, we can use the SNSjointplot function, and this works in exactly the same way. We just say x, and then we say our y, which we're going to be using fair, and then we're going to be using our data, which is attn, and then we're going to have to specify which kind we want. So this one we're going to be using a scatter. Shift enter here shows that we have a nice scatter graph of what's going on, including distributions for each of our continuous functions, which is helpful. We can see here that the Pearson R is 0.096. This is a measure of the correlation between the two. We can also do this using pandas. If we say attn and then double square brackets, I'll explain this in a minute, for age and fair, and then .corr, which stands for correlation. We can shift enter here and we can see the correlation data. What's going on here is that we're just basically splitting the table into, well, we're using a new table of just the age and the fair. If we delete this and we just say attn.core, we will see that we get a huge kind of table, which is really hard to see what's going on, kind of what's happening here straight away. But what's going on here is that we get the slope of the line is, well, and a measure of how correlated it is. So there's not too much kind of correlation between the two. They're quite independently kind of distributed. So we can also look at who survived which is probably, this is where the kind of most helpful analysis happens. So we go x equals class, data equals attn, and then we split it based on whether they survived or not. So survived, we can't do a tab trick here. So we'll see here that a lot more people in third class died, a lot more people in first class survived. So that's quite interesting, but it's kind of how we'd expect. What we can also do is we can split this by gender, but because we can't split a kind of graph twice, we have to do a little bit of funky pandas planning. So we have, I've called it a attn gender because we're going to be sorting it by gender, and we're going to be splitting the attn data frame into well, we're going to only be using the ones with survived is equal to 1. So what this is doing, this might seem a little bit weird at first, but this section here will generate a data frame. In fact, I can do this here. This is going to generate a series based on the survived column of the data frame on whether they survived or not, and then when we put this into a kind of like square brackets around the attn kind of wrapper, we will only accept and show the columns that have a true corresponding value in this one. So this is a way to sort by or kind of filter out all the people that didn't survive and only leave us with the ones that did. So if I print attn gender dot head, we get all the people survived in this data frame, and then we get a nice list of the genders of what's going on. So now we can look at what's actually happening within this data frame. So SNSjointplot, open brackets, the x is going to be the class, the data is going to be attn gender, and then the hue is going to be equal to the sex. So we can see all these people have survived, and then there's a massive turnaround in what's happening. In terms of, if we look back up here, when we sort it by class and by gender, we see that the vast majority of people are male now, but in the graph that we have now, the vast majority of people are female. So that's quite interesting to see that most of the women survived, but most of the men died in the Titanic crash. So what I want you to do is, looking at this data set, I want you to create a count plot of the towns the passengers embarked from, using the hue argument, split this by gender, find the distribution of the ages using the distplot function. That's another function you can look into, which is just one kind of continuous data. And then I also want you to create a box plot of age versus the town the passenger embarked from. So hopefully that's given you a very brief insight into what the Seaborn library can offer. I think it's a really good library. I love the look of these graphs. There's also a load of different options that I haven't explained in this video, but you can kind of look through the documentation yourself, because I'm trying to keep this one short. But hopefully you've got a nice idea of what's going on, and then next time we'll be looking at some different plotting methods that we can use using pandas and using a nice little interactive library called Bokeh, and we will see you then.